Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Welcome back to the Gay Buddhist Fellowship. Our tradition is to go around and introduce ourselves first, and then I'll introduce our speaker. My name is Tom.
Grisha.
My name is Rich.
I'm Kay.
Prasada Chitta.
I'm Shantanu.
I'm Zawal.
Baruch.
My name is Cass.
Rob.
Jason. I'm Greg.
Andre.
David.
My name is Christian.
I'm Clint.
My name is Ray.
My name is Matthew.
I'm Larry.
Peter. David. Gary.
Kevin. Francisco.
Michael.
Jim.
My name is Harley.
Paul out here.
My name is Mark.
I'm Richard.
And Fogg.
My name is Joe.
I'm Jerry.
I'm John.
Tim.
Jason. My name is Stephen.
Yeah.
Tony.
George.
Dennis.
I'm Brad.
And I'm Craig.
Paul, we have one spare seat in here if you'd like it.
I'm more comfortable here.
Very well. So today I have the pleasure of introducing a friend of ours who's been here a number of times, Tom Moon. Tom is a native San Franciscan and has been a Buddhist practitioner for 22 years. He has been a psychotherapist in private practice since 1980 and works with a primarily gay male clientele. His bi-weekly column, which I'm sure many of us read, The Examined Life, is published locally in the San Francisco Bay Times. An archive of his columns, as well as his spiritual manifesto, Spirit Matters, can be found on his website, tommoon.net. Tom, welcome back.
Good morning.
Good morning.
By far the biggest obstacle and distraction from my practice lately has been the horrible Trump administration and how to cope with it. It's ever since the election that I've been cycling through a lot of feelings: rage, outrage, depression, despair, sense of helplessness, hopelessness, and just plain exhaustion dealing with it. It's interfered at times with my work, with my relationships. So it's been difficult, real challenge. And I know I'm not the Lone Ranger. I've talked with some of you guys, and everyone I've talked to has been feeling pretty much the same. So, and also recently I was talking with a spirit rock teacher who's been teaching longer than I've been practicing, and he confided in me that at this time it has been difficult to represent the Dharma publicly. It was a surprising thing to hear. But it also was a little reassuring that I'm not the only one, you know. But lately I have been feeling better. And so I wanted to share a few ideas that I think, what? A teeny little bit better. You'll take it. That's good. That's helpful. A little bit better. So I want to share a few ideas that I think maybe you'll find helpful. There's a story from the Buddha's life that I've been thinking about for the last year or so. He was a prince, and he was being groomed to take over, be the king of this particular kingdom in northern India. And at age 29, he abandoned all that and went out and became a renunciate to try to find an answer to his question whether there's a solution to the problem of human suffering. And he found his answer and became a teacher. And from that day, the day of his enlightenment on, he lived a basically public life, involved in all the controversies and issues of his time and teaching. So at some point in his ministry, the kingdom he had been planning to, or had been groomed to take over, was invaded and destroyed. The ruling class of that kingdom, the people he'd grown up with and was part of, they were all herded into pits, and the invaders used elephants to trample them all to death. So he never would have been king, I guess. But news came to him. I imagine him sitting under a tree teaching, and suddenly these guys come running up and tell him this horrible news. In any case, it is said that he received the news in silence. He said nothing. And I often wonder, or it's interesting to think about, what would an enlightened being think or feel in response to the news of such an atrocity? I imagine that whatever he felt, he wouldn't have been particularly confused or in a way even surprised. I mean, he knew more than anyone in his time, or almost anyone in history, how these things arise, how these things happen. He knew the nature of greed, hatred, and delusion, what it does to people. So he had no illusions about the world, is what I guess I should say, and what it is. But we don't know what he felt or thought. But we know what he did, which is that he just kept on teaching. This was his path. This was his offering to the world, his teaching, and he was never deterred from it by anything that happened in the world. And here's some of what he taught. Others will kill. We shall not kill. Thus we should direct our hearts. Others will be cruel. We shall not be cruel. Thus we should direct our hearts. Others will speak falsely. We will speak what is true. Thus we should direct our hearts. Others will be fraudulent. We shall not be fraudulent. Thus we should direct our hearts. Others will be hateful. We shall become loving. Thus we shall direct our hearts. Others will be unwise. We shall become wise. Thus we shall direct our hearts. He didn't talk about how we're going to fix the world. He talked about how we're going to respond to it, how we're going to direct our lives within it. And just to show how uncompromising and unconditional he was in these teachings, there's a famous sutta. Do you know this one? The simile of the saw, one of the Pali suttas in the Majjhima Nikaya, in which the Buddha raises the question, how should you behave if bandits capture you and they use two-handled saws to saw off your arms and legs? This is his response. Monks, even if bandits were to sever you savagely limb by limb with a two-handled saw, he who gave rise to a mind of hate toward them would not be carrying out my teaching. Herein, monks, you should train thus. Our minds will remain unaffected, and we will utter no bitter words. We shall abide compassionate for their welfare, with a mind of loving kindness, never in a mood of hate. We shall abide pervading them with a mind imbued. And he goes on like this forever. When I first read this, my response was, dude. Wait, what? On the other hand, I think, what about Forgive them, Father, they don't know what they're doing, uttered by another enlightened being in a situation in which he was actually being treated that way. And I think of Viktor Frankl's stories of what it was like for some people in Auschwitz. That he said, there were actually people who made a decision that they were not going to abandon their human dignity, no matter what happened around them or to them, and who were even able to respond to the people around them with courage, but also with compassion and kindness and even generosity. He says, that those people were clearly few in number, but they're important, he said, because they show that there's a capacity in the human heart to be like that, to do that. Even if only few realize it in every generation, it's there. And so I like that. So the question then would be, how do we do that? I mean, we're in this really dark time in American history. And I'm not there with that saw thing. Well, the Buddha presented the Eightfold Noble Path as a way to train the heart to be that kind of person. And I think the foundation of the path is the refuges, is that we have to take refuge. He said on the last day of his life, where is this? These famous words that he spoke as he was dying. Therefore, Ananda, be ye lamps unto yourselves. Be ye a refuge to yourselves. Betake yourself to no external refuge. Hold fast to the truth as a lamp. Hold fast to the truth as a refuge. Look not for a refuge in anyone besides yourselves. And then here's this other, I'm going to do a biblical quote here to compare. Lay not up your treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will be your heart also. I quote this for a couple of reasons. One, it's one of my favorite biblical quotes. Another is that it sounds very Buddhist to me, the admonition about impermanence. And also because of the phrase, where your treasure is, there will be your heart also. And I guess that's the question that I ask myself these days. All of a sudden I'm going to cry. I'm very emotional about all this. Where is my treasure? Where is my heart in these times? It's not in Washington, right? And I think that these two quotes show that in every spiritual path, there's some admonition about the world. There's a skepticism about the world. We are strangers in a strange land here. We are in the world, but not of it. We relate to the world, but it is very important, and it's important that we be engaged in the world, as the Buddha was, Jesus was, but not that we be ensnared by it, fooled by it, conned by it. There is no secure refuge in worldly things. The spiritual teachers are unanimous about that one. So the question isn't what we're going to derive from the world, but what we're going to bring to it. And so the question for me that I'm going to leave with you, I guess, is where is your heart and where is your treasure? The three refuges in Buddhism are the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, right? You take refuge there in those three things so that you can deal with this heartbreaking world with some measure of equanimity and compassion and freedom, so that the world does not dictate how I will respond to it, right? I will respond to it based on my understanding of the truth, based on my values. Tara Brach interprets the three refuges, Buddha, Sangha, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So that's, for her, Buddha is awareness. We take refuge in awareness. To me, very important. In fact, that's the most important of the refuges for me, because it includes the other two. It just seems to me that when I do meditate, and I try to every day, at least several times, that if I can identify with awareness, then I'm to a certain degree free of the contents of awareness. The real mystery of awareness, right, is that it's not affected by its contents. Isn't that strange? I mean, the awareness of fire isn't hot. The awareness of a mountain isn't bigger than the awareness of a molecule, right? But to get to the point, the awareness of anger isn't angry. And the awareness of suffering does not itself suffer. There is something in us which no heartbreak and no suffering of any kind can ever touch. And that awareness is not cold, it's not just detached, because it's not separate from anything. How would it detach? And it's also, in my experience of it, it's not indifferent. There's a warmth in it. There's a love in it. So to be aware, to be able to retreat to the refuge of awareness regularly, brings an understanding of the truth of the way things are, and also it brings love, the capacity to feel connected to all of you guys and the world, no matter what people do. So that, I think, is for me the most important aspect of practice and the refuge I'm trying to hold fast to at this stage in my life. When you follow the path according to the Buddha, this is what he means by it. We shall abide pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. That is how you should train monks. So I'm 70 years old. I can't think of any better way to spend what remains of my life other than trying to manifest that ideal in the world. An ideal like that would be in my best victory over the world. It would be the best way of participating in the world, the most helpful thing to do if I can do it. So I think that's my treasure if I can do it. And I came today to make that commitment publicly myself. This is what I want to do because I'm tired of the way I've been feeling. And I have been feeling a little better. So it's a little better. So I'm curious. I'll stop there. I wanted to have a discussion about all this, if you don't mind. So I would like to hear from other people. Sir?
Great. So apropos to, I didn't know you were going to be speaking today. Every time on my way over, I wonder, gosh, I wonder if the Dharma talk is going to be really relevant. I'm reading Tara Brach's True Refuge, and I looked at it right before coming over, and there it is. And it's just, I'm 70 also, and it's wonderful to hear you say that you're going to dedicate the rest of your life to trying to embody this, and that's exactly where I'm at too, because the refuge, to me, refuges are the only thing I can look to find peace of mind. It's just like there's nothing else. Trump actually doesn't bother me because I tune out all the news. It's only when I get together with friends that they fill me in on what's going on. But just life in general. I mean, there's so much suffering all around me, everywhere I look. It's homelessness and whatever else.
Yeah.
And it's the 3 refuges are where I'm heading. Yes, that's right. So thank you so
Well,
much for sharing.
Thank you. Appreciate that. What was I going to say something in response. I forgot what it was. I'll think of it. Oh, I wish I could tune out sometimes. You know, I'm not very good at that. I'll take media fasts. I'll go to Spirit Rock and, you know, but I'll still cheat and look at Facebook sometimes. I can't, these days I can't help it, you know. But I try that because I think we have to balance engaged Buddhism with disengaged Buddhism. we have to have retreat and refuge. Otherwise, we'll be torn apart by the world, I think. Really?
Tom, I have...
Oh, Tom.
So I see your posts on Facebook.
Oh, no. My other
I
side.
mean, that's how, you know, most of how I follow along with you. We don't meet periodically to have tea, so there you have it. And so I wish that you would, my wish for you is that as you post these things, which, you know, are alarming and, you know, deserve attention, perhaps have you considered bringing more of what you're talking about to it? And sometimes you do, you know, I will say that. You're not just somebody who reposts all the bad news. Like, you know, when I have friends like that, I usually just, like, hide them because, like, I don't need people to curate the bad news for me. But providing an insight and maybe a direction in this way. So as you're changing your intention, it sounds like, or, you know, hoping to, like, follow this path a little bit more, is there a way that maybe you can, have you thought about that? Like maybe bringing
I am thinking
that
about
insight
it.
to that?
Yeah. Well, I will say my Facebook posts are the least evolved aspect of me. That's where I go when I'm outraged and upset and bleh, you know, and it's not very good. It's not the part of myself I'm most proud of.
It's such a juxtaposition to your column, for instance.
It is, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Well, I like to say I'm multifaceted. Yeah, it's an issue, and I thank you for raising that. It's something I do. If I'm going to bring myself in alignment with this, how I talk about these things is very important. That it is important to represent hope and to remember to keep hopeful myself. I do find that difficult. I have found it difficult lately. So that's something I'm going to be thinking about. Yes.
Speaking of Facebook, I have a picture on it from when a decade ago, and I don't look at it. But my husband looks at it all the time and, moans and groans and is despairing about it. And my first thought is, well, why look at it?
Mm-hmm.
Why do it?
Mm-hmm.
And so my question to you is, why do you do it?
Why do I do it? I've disconnected my account a few times for periods of time. The thing I do like about it is for learning what's going on. What all my friends, I have all these smart friends who post all kinds of stuff that I wouldn't see otherwise, and it does keep me informed in a way that I want to be informed. Also, it helps me. I get to commiserate because all my friends feel exactly the way I do. You really can't be my friend if you're a Trump supporter. I don't have any Trump supporting Facebook friends. So it helps to feel part of something. And I think that's enough to keep me coming back to it. But I think it is in many ways like an addiction. I'm trying to limit my amount of time on it and so on. I mean, it is one of the issues I'm having to work with. But I don't think I want to let go of social media completely. I think it has a place and it's valuable in my life. I thought I should do that at time. I think in some ways I was happier before it existed. It was easier to be in the present in some ways. But now that it's here, I don't think I'm going to let go of it. I don't know what other people think about that. But Mike?
Tom, I'd be interested in your thoughts about taking refuge in the Dharma and the Sangha. Now, both of those could probably be an entire talk in and of themselves. But I just would be interested in hearing what your thoughts are. Because you talked mostly about awareness.
Yeah, that's the one.
Buddha.
That's the one that. Well, I mean, I don't know what to say. That's probably why I didn't say much. The Dharma is the truth of the way things are, and it's also the path, the ethical path, and the direction of how we're supposed to go, and it orients me when I'm off center. You know, to remember, well, this is what life is supposed to be for. This is what life is about. Sangha, I've really needed a lot lately. It's really helpful to have spiritual friends. It's really helpful. It's helpful. It's really helpful for me to come here and share stuff with you all. You know, I feel safe here. I feel safe to be honest and to get emotional at times. And I've never been judged, you know, and I feel comprehended. And it's wonderful, you know, to have that. In a world that's so full of discord, and where there's so many people I simply can't comprehend. Most of what's going on in Washington, I can't grok it. I can't comprehend why people would live like this. You know, there's a naivete in me that will never go away because I am a native San Franciscan. I did grow up in the People's Republic of San Francisco, and this was America to me. You know. Until a couple what? You know, I thought everyone was going to catch up. We're ahead of the world. They're all going to catch up eventually. They let go of all this nonsense about racism and homophobia and so on. I got off the topic there. Yeah. But so it helps me orient both those things. You know. Oh, who? Sorry.
So I guess I'm still struggling with the idea of like when somebody's like sawing you apart, that you're. What's admirable about being the detachment from that, from the detachment of judgment in something like that. I mean, I understand. I've heard, you know, you should treat every person you meet as the object, as the ultimate object of reverence. So you meet like the architect of the Eli massacre, and you know he's some mother's son. And you recognize that he's not that's not all of who he is, but the detachment, the idea of like separating from the experience of, you know, when horrors are being committed, I have trouble with finding what's admirable in that.
Well, I do too. Although I think detachment is not what he was talking about. It was actually you be right there, you be connected, you be one with what's happening. You know, there's no separate self, so there's nothing to be. Who would detach, right? The Buddha knew he was exaggerating. I mean, he wrote, monks, if you keep this advice on the simile of the saw constantly in your mind, do you see any course of speech, trivial or gross, that you could not endure? No, venerable sir. Therefore, monks, you should keep this advice on the simile of the saw constantly in mind. That will lead to your welfare and happiness for a long time. I think he used the story more as a way of orienting yourself to an ideal. And it was the most, you know, far-fetched, absurd thing he could think of, I think. But I think it does help to say, you know, there really is no excuse, you know. Because I don't need to be told my anger is appropriate. I know that, and I have a lot of appropriate anger these days, you know. So I don't need that. I mean, you know, I don't have any trouble accepting my anger. It's accepting and feeding my compassion and forgiveness and gratitude. Those are the things that are the growing edge for me. So that's the spirit in which does that help at all? Yes. You had your hand.
Thanks. This is very timely. I was just at a class of 70 turned 70 college reunion last week. And we were talking about this, how Trump, or our relationship to Trump, has somewhat soiled our inner life because we take joy in bad news for Trump. And it is like a drug, and I seek it out. And if I don't get it, I seek farther. And then I'm very ashamed. And I resist having compassion for him. I mean, occasionally you see a picture of him and say, oh boy, it's really gotten to him. He's
aging fast.
Yeah.
I haven't noticed.
And I cramp that.
Yeah.
Where does this exist in the sins of Buddhism? I mean, it's just poison everywhere. I'm just trying to. I know it's a Christian outrage. I just don't know how it got so bad. Sometimes I think the election was so interminable that we were all jacked up, and then when it went so bad, it added trauma to the mix. And
yeah.
I don't know what I'm saying. I just can't believe how poorly I'm managing it.
Well, that's why I'm here today, because that's been my, having practiced for 22 years. What Trump is undoing me, I mean that's weird. That's and I'm determined that is not going to happen, But I don't know completely how. I certainly don't know how to be this immeasurable without hostility guy yet. But I just think it's an ideal that I can work for. What about? Yeah, for me, my Schadenfreude dance. Mm-hmm. I've done a number of times when indictments come out. Little fan dance, and I know that Schadenfreude, while there's a certain delight in it, it is dukkha. It is a form of suffering because there's an edge to it. It isn't the way we need to go. So I guess in response, all I can say is that the reason I do practice is I realize I'm in such need of it. I think we're all having a hard time. I mean, I think that the thing about Trump is that he brings out the worst in me, and I think he has an amazing ability to do that for everybody. Everybody who supports him is debased. I mean, this Christian minister Franklin Graham the other day defending. He wrote, what did he write? He said, attempted rape is not a crime, which is news to me. He said the fact that Kavanaugh got off her showed respect for her. And to be able to talk like that, first of all, you know damn well you're lying. You know you're not a Christian when you say things like that. He knows that. There's no way. The stepping away from truth and from factual reality is what you have to do if you're going to support this man. And even if you do stand in the truth, to do it calmly is a challenge. Clint?
Ditto to everything everybody else has said so far. I think compassion also goes with compassion with oneself and their own limitations. I'm never going to get to that stage where I'm going to, just feel nothing but love and forgiveness for Trump and all the people that he represents that are with him fighting this war. It's kind of like you take that story of the Buddha and maybe you take it one step farther. Instead of the bandits cutting off your arms and legs, what if the bandits were cutting off the arms and legs of somebody you dearly love, like is a good and decent person?
Yeah.
Yes. Is compassion still called for then at that time? I just know that I'm just trying to know my limitations. I'm trying not to get too far deep into the hate pool but I am never going to not feel Schadenfreude when Trump will get brought down, and he will, and his henchmen. It's, and I also just think, it's kind of like that kind of cliche of a story about the farmer whose horse ran away, and all the neighbors commiserated for him, and the horse came back with 7 other horses, and so was he unlucky to happen, or was he lucky? I do think that the outrage that's caused right now, Trump is doing us all a huge favor. That it wouldn't have happened if Hillary got elected. Things would keep on going on with a corrupt, intransigent Congress blocking her every step of the way. Who knows? We might even get where all this stuff that's been festering for decades now might just get swept away as a reaction to what's going on, to how horrible it's become. And I'm going to hope that happens. I'm going to hope for the downfall of these people.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
And I can't just do it in a dispassionate, calm way. I will enjoy witnessing their downfall. And if that makes me a bad Buddhist, I'm just going to have to live with it.
Yeah, you're terrible. Well, man, I mean, the fact that you can enjoy Schadenfreude will be one of the main reasons. You'll be one of the first people I call when collapse. I've been enjoying our conversation.
We have our own little kind of mutual admiration society on Facebook.
Yeah. But and you're what you say about compassion is self-compassion is we're not gods, and we are deeply affected by the world whether we want to or not. And yes, compassion for ourselves. And not a good Buddhist, I don't know whether I should say this or not, but to me, you are one of the exemplars of engaged Buddhism. I mean, I remember cooking at the Hamilton Family Center 20 years ago, and you're still with homeless people, right? And you're still doing that, I mean, you are engaged, and you don't brag about it or talk. I mean, and there's other things.
I am pretty fucking great. I do like
Well, I agree. So, I mean, where did you learn that? Where did you brought that from somewhere?
Many sides to me. Some less admirable than other sides.
Yes, I think that's true of us. Yeah. And I relate to you from that. I do admire you in many ways, but also I like the Schadenfreude aspect of you as well. Mike.
I just want to say, one of the things I was reading recently that gave me insight into this issue, the division of the country and the polarities. This woman, this evangelical woman, was asked about Kavanaugh, and she said, well, and then she quoted, and David sent Bathsheba, and David lusted after Bathsheba, and David sent Bathsheba's husband into battle where he was killed. And she said, that still doesn't mean he was a bad king, even though he committed murder.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mentality, it is a contradiction. If you think of the myth of David and the whole, symbolism of that, within the Judeo-Christian tradition, but it represents a mentality that those of us in this room don't share. And what I think this whole process has revealed is the incredibly deep polarities within the country. Trump is a symbol.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Trump is a symbol.
Oh, yeah.
And in some ways, Kavanaugh is too.
Yeah.
And the people who are trying to put Kavanaugh in there really want a totally different kind of country than we have had.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, the dilemma is how to apply the Dharma. What is good speech? What is good thought in a way that is, both enlightened and instructive, shall we say? Because I think we, as you were talking about, Clint, we absolutely need to be engaged.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we do that effectively?
Mm-hmm.
That's, and I think the Sangha is part of that, because we come to the Sangha is a place of refuge. Sangha is a place where we come and, bare our souls with like-minded people, I think. And strength, and like the labor unions in the 19th century, hopefully step by step we begin to reassert and conquer our own, our own destiny. I mean, so the Sangha in that sense becomes a sense of hope, I think.
Well, I think what the refuges tell me a little bit, what they're about is they remind me that I'm not just a victim of the world. That we have some freedom to decide how we're going to live in it. If people in Auschwitz had a measure of freedom to do that, then certainly we do too. And that's an important thing to remember. The thing I think all the answers are there too. They're just hard to apply. For me, the best treatise on engaged Buddhism is the Bhagavad Gita. Where Krishna teaches Arjuna karma yoga. And in karma yoga, all yogic paths are about union with God. That's the ultimate thing, right? And so the action in karma yoga is not to achieve any particular result. That's not the point at all. I mean, personal gain, no, and maybe you won't change the world either. You do it because that's your prayer. That's really, and I don't know what more can we say really than that. I was talking to a guy who he lives in Oakland, and every weekend he gets up on a Saturday morning with a black garbage bag, and he goes out and picks up garbage on the streets. That's part of his service. And he's been doing this for 15 years. And, people come up to him and they say, well, how did you organize to do this? What group do you represent? He says, well, I got a garbage bag and and then other people started doing it, and it now has become kind of an organization. And he said to me, I talked to him on Friday, he said, there's still a lot of garbage in Oakland. To me that was a lesson. I thought, oh yeah, there will always be suffering in this world. There will always be evil people. So the purpose of engagement is not to defeat them, not the ultimate absolute triumph of good in the world, because that's a fantasy, right? There's a story about Kuan Yin. She was the Chinese goddess of compassion, whose name means "she who hears the weeping world." Beautiful name. The story is that she visited hell, and she heard the infinite number of beings in hell moaning and suffering, and she prayed for their release. And the depth of her compassion was infinite, so that she could share her karma with all these beings. Anyway, the point was, hell emptied out. Hell went silent. All the beings disappeared, and 1 second later, it filled up again. That's a fierce story. It's a very, very much the Asian view of how the world actually is, and a little more real than the white liberal stuff I was talking about. Sure.
Can you repeat your question? Where is your heart? Was that the question?
Jesus said that. Lay not up your treasures. He said, for where your treasure is, there will be your heart also.
And your answer? What was your answer?
Well, no, it's a question that I'm still asking. What is of ultimate value to me? What do I stand on? What feeds me? What renews me? What do I love most? Awareness is part of it. Love is part of it. But and I was, and so I think that's a question I was sort of wanting everyone to think about.
I'm having an impossible time trying to answer it for myself. That's why I asked again. I wonder what other people were thinking. The answer would be, I think it's love, but I also was thinking about being sawed in half, and what impact, what would have more of an impact? Me screaming, "I hate you, you scum motherfuckers, for cutting me in half," or in that moment looking them in the eye and praying, saying, "I pray that you have a spiritual awakening as a result of that you're murdering me," or something like that. Little shift in like what the impact I'm going to have in that absurd situation. And it reminded me of Facebook. Everything goes back to Facebook. I have a brother-in-law actually who's a Trump supporter. Not only that, but like really vocally anti-democrat on Facebook. And he and my sister share a page. They don't have their individual pages. And she just rolls her eyes and doesn't participate. She's completely opposite of him. But I posted once on my Facebook page a photograph of Betsy DeVos and a bunch of these old white guys going into a school of color, which is where I teach. And basically saying how they're going to save the world and everything. And I wrote some snarky comment about white privilege and, blah, blah, blah. And, oh, great, I can't wait for them to fix everything for us. And so he wrote back that white privilege is a democratic invention from the last election. And then some African-American friends of mine on Facebook attacked him. And then I attacked him, and he retaliated, and it became this like intense battle, much like being sawed in half. And at some point, though, we just sort of, a friend of mine, we actually sent him research and explained what white privilege is, and we calmed down, and we did it with compassion and love, and he backed off and maybe became slightly 2% enlightened on that topic at least. Yeah. It's the idea that all this hate and anger and venom is not the answer, but it is my first response.
It is mine too, often, and the second way that you responded was better. Yeah. The thing about being sawed in half, Jesus forgave the people who crucified him, but also Gandhi, when this guy shot him in the abdomen, what he did was he clasped his hands and bowed to the man who was killing him. And he said, Ram, Ram, were his last words. Because an Orthodox Hindu believes that if you say the name of God as you die, if that's your last thought, you will not be reborn. You will be delivered. Mm-hmm. And so that's where he was, So I know it's possible. I guess it's important not to say I can't do it. Well, I know that I can't do it. I know, okay, but that I could do it. That it is a capacity, and I could move toward that. That's enough. And we need to be compassionate, not beat ourselves up because we're not Gandhi. Of course not. But you know what I mean? It's an ideal that I think is that's where my treasure is. That ideal would be useful.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you.
This has been great. I just want to offer something real quick regarding Facebook. What I've taken to do lately, instead of getting all wound up, is I'll just pick a friend, and go look at their page and just scan down and see the stuff they've posted over the past couple weeks, and congratulate them on something, or catch up on their life, or whatever.
Yeah, that's what it was supposed to be for.
It takes me away from the feed of all the awfulizing, and I'm like, no, I'm going to go over here and explore a friend or two, because I see stuff like, oh my God, I didn't see that, because I didn't open up Facebook the day they posted some great thing about their life, And I don't want to ignore those things.
That's a good tip.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Next week we will have an open discussion here, and some of us will be off. No.
No.
Okay. Well, John.
Prasanna Cheetah's going to be here.
Yeah, I'm going to be here next week.
Okay. That's what's on the schedule, and I was told differently a few moments ago. So
31st.
No, the 30th.
30th is what I meant. Yeah, no, I thought I was, but I'd be happy to come and take part in an open discussion.
Okay.
Is that right?
I misunderstood your email. I thought you meant to be doing the 21st of October.
Oh, okay.
Really from the
I was saying that I this is funny to say in front of everybody. So the retreat that I wanted to go on, they said I could leave Sunday morning very early instead of.
Okay.
That's what the email said, so that I could come straight here from the retreat Sunday morning.
Yeah.
But I can also change my schedule just as easily and not have to drive here. So we'll talk about this after.
On the 21st.
Okay.
No, on the 30th. What?
No, 29th of October.
Oh,
No, I can go with what the schedule says.
Oh, I see. Because we're scheduled to have an October 21st open discussion, and you next week, and you guys were discussing flip-flops.
We discussed that. Yes.
Does anybody have a coin for flip-flops? So, what would you prefer to do, Prasad? And let me tell you this. So next week is our annual retreat, so there will be a much smaller crowd here than normal.
I think I would prefer to come on the 21st in that case. And also, driving home I can actually take part in the retreat.
Yeah, do that.
And not have to leave.
Do that. Yeah.
Done. Okay, all right.
So next week will be an open discussion. And I'm so glad you were here to hear this.
Thank you, Jeff.
Solved. Do we have announcements? Oh, well, the Donna is what supports us, and that is generosity, so please be generous. There's a Donna bowl out there, and our host will go around and rattle your cage, give you the opportunity to be generous. And our host is George.
I'm your host. I'll be coming around Don Bowl, as Tom just said, and there are organic Fuji apples out there. Please enjoy them. Fresh from Rainbow Grocery. And what else do we need to know? Tea. There's tea there. Put your cup in the sink when you're done. And 12:30, some people go out for lunch sometimes at the door. And sign up. There's a sign up sheet somewhere as well. Somebody put it out there in the green. I didn't, but somebody did. So.
Great. Jim?
Yes, this is in many ways a sad occasion. Sweet Tom has been a master facilitator for more than 5 years, and he's leaving us and moving to Phoenix to care for his mother. So you're irreplaceable. It's been a great pleasure having you in our Sangha. I'm glad you'll be on the retreat.
It has been a great privilege, truly, sitting up here. And so if the thought has crossed your mind, perhaps facilitate, it's very enjoyable and completely will change your orientation to the Sangha and enrich your life. So consider that if you are asked. Cass, did you, or another announcement?
I did. Next week, because of the retreat, we have a need for a host here. So if anybody feels like taking care of supplying treats and making sure there's hot water and collecting the dana.
Is anybody scheduled to be host next week?
Nobody is scheduled to be host next week. So it's a good time to test the waters if you've been considering it. And I'm desperate. And if you're not taking all morning getting into harnesses and chaps and straps,
oh, that's right.
Consider volunteering.
You wear them here.
Okay, discuss later. Baruch.
Busy weekend. If you're not on the retreat and you're free on Sunday, I'm co-leading or co-teaching a day-long. It's called White Awake. It's for white people, and we're focusing on unlearning racism and its spirit thought. And it'll be, I think, you could go on their website, but if you're interested, it's the third year that we've done this, so it'd be great to see anybody.
David.
My name's David. There's been an ongoing monthly book group, somewhat affiliated here, calling it Radical Dharma Study Group, and we're into the next book right now. I think we're meeting on October 14th, I think is the next meeting, but we're reading a book called Race and Religion. It's about white supremacy and its intersection with American Buddhism and Burmese Buddhism as well. So if you're interested, you can ask me. There's a kind of a Google group. The book itself is very academic and extremely expensive. So for those who are committing to and we're going to be reading over the course of 3 months. So we're taking it really slow because it's very dense. But we're making it available like an online version, digital version. If you want to participate and you don't have the cash to spend the money on the very expensive book, but you can talk to me afterwards if you want to know more.
Thank you.
Oh, and it's been also for those of you some of you have participated. For up until now, it's been really facilitated very much by Daigon Gother. I don't know if you know him. He's a Zen priest. But we're changing the format to be a much more, I guess, non-individually led discussion format. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other announcements? Well, I have one final appeal for someone listening to this right now. And that is, one of the things that I do is I go and I get the mail and I open it and I review it and I parse it out to whoever needs it. Most of what comes in are address corrections. Prisoners have been released and want to be added and stuff. And then there are other ones that come in and they are requesting to be added to the newsletter. Or they're requesting a pen pal because we used to have a program and we're on some directory. So what I do with those people is I send them a nifty form letter that's easy and just says, hey, we're a small organization. All we do is sit on Sundays and we put out a newsletter and we're happy to add you to the newsletter list. And by the way, here's a picture of our beautiful space where we sit. And if you want to join us in spirit Sunday at this time, please do so. And so we need someone to do that. And I will tell you, it will enrich your life also, because the letters that you read can be both heart-wrenching and heartwarming, and it will connect you with suffering, it will connect you with people who have needs, and it will give you an insight into how privileged you are. It's really wonderful.
I just want to add, you get the keys to the mailboxes on Market Street. It's open 24/7, so you don't have to be there during opening hours. You'll be able to get in and get the mail anytime, because you'll have a set of keys.
Right. And we could even divvy it up into somebody who just gets the mail and parses it out, and there's someone else who maybe sends these letters and stuff. But it's not an overwhelming task, and we probably get maybe 20 letters a month or something like that. So anyway, I hope you will consider that. If so, approach me or Richard Aslan. Why don't we gather in a circle for our dedication of By the power and strength of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all be free from sorrow and the causes of sorrow. May all never be separated from the sacred happiness which is without sorrow. And may all live in equanimity, without too much attachment or too much aversion, believing in the equality of all that lives.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.